yet, right?
We do not. I'll keep my eye out for him.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you want to wait a few more minutes, that's fine too.
Yeah, we'll give him 1 minute. Hopefully,
Okay.
because I know he just texted everyone he's having trouble, but
Okay.
give it a minute.
I'll give it a minute. Thank you.
Lisa, while we're waiting, can you also make Dr. LeBlanc a co-host?
Yes,
and me a co-host just for,
yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mike said start without him if we need to. All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:16. Can we all rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
One
nation.
nation under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Ask for public comment. Lisa, did you get anything sent to you for public comment?
No, I did not.
Okay, we'll close public comment. And this evening, we have a special presentation from Dr. LeBlanc, who's going to fill us in on what he's been doing over the last month or so. Dr. LeBlanc, you on?
Yes, thank you very much. I was reminded that you had a long agenda, and it was underscored that this should be brief. So I'm going to provide a brief overview and then open it up to any questions that you might have. So I'm just going to share my screen really briefly just to provide a quick overview. And I hope you're all able to see my screen. But just as a quick overview, I just wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about the work that we've been doing as a committee to provide you first a little bit of a background. And so the goal of this work, as you are all familiar with, is the idea of making sure that all of our students are experiencing a sense of belonging. And one way to do that is to really focus on our district and school climates. Since the inception of this work, I've had the opportunity to meet with families from the district. I've had an opportunity to speak with students and to speak with other staff and stakeholders. And so the process began with us really thinking about, well, what structures do we need to have in place in order to sustain the kind of climate that we think is important for all of our students to experience. And the idea was that we would create a district-wide equity committee that would really be charged with establishing some of the parameters, some of the ground rules for how we might be moving forward to address these goals. So as you can even see by my first slide, that one of the first accomplishments that we did was have a name for our committee. And so we are the Committee for Diversity, Inclusion, and Racial Equity in Highland. The committee has been formed, and we've had 2 meetings so far. And I can tell you, I'm extremely proud and impressed by the fact that we've been able to move in this way at this rate, particularly given the times that we're in, given the uncertainty, given some of the other things that everybody's really trying to navigate at this time. And so our committee is comprised of, we have members from our board, along with members from our community. We have parents, we have student representatives, we have members of our staff, we have central office, and we also have the superintendent who's serving in an ex officio manner. And so this really is a way in which we're trying to advance the notion of climate and community by making sure that we have representatives from across all of our stakeholders in this process. And so we have, as I mentioned, met twice so far as a committee. One of the big things that we wanted to start with was really just establishing how our committee would function. And so we've identified roles that we think are important for us to be able to move forward, including a meeting facilitator role, a meeting secretary role, and also a district liaison role. We think that it's important that the committee and the district be aligned. And so it's important for us to maintain that level of open communication and alignment. And so we thought identifying a role in that way would be an important aspect of our committee. We've also focused on 3 large priority areas, including climate, curriculum, and that's something that has been brought to our attention, the need to really deep dive into our curriculum to ensure that all of our students feel visible and valued in the curriculum, and also the broader goal of enhancing the diversity of our staff. And so these are the three big priority areas that have been undergirding this work. As we see our next steps meeting now through the end of the year, we want to continue with collecting more data. We want to have a better sense of how families in our community is really experiencing things right now. And so one of the things that we've discussed is the implementation of a climate survey. And I know that that's one of our plans is to establish a climate survey. And also to continue gathering data through focus groups. And I've had the opportunity, including to speak with teachers at the middle school. And so that was, and administrators as well, which has been very insightful and really understanding how we are experiencing these times right now. The other aspect of our work moving forward is to really, based on data that we're getting and additional work that we're doing, is identify our goals. And so we have priority areas, but we're really focusing on specific goals that we will identify and then work through subcommittees to advance. We recognize the workload and sometimes the challenge of having a large committee come together all the time. And so what we're doing is meeting as a large group. The goal is to meet monthly, but to have smaller subcommittees that can advance the other works of the goals that they can then come back and report out to the broad committee. Because the idea is that we want to build on the momentum that we have, but we also want to do so in a way that's respectful of the time commitment that's required for members of our committee. And also we want to make sure that the work is aligning with areas of interest that the committee members have identified. And then ultimately the goal is for us to develop a draft of a plan, an equity plan, that would really identify these core goals and some action steps that we can take to address them. The hope is also that this district equity plan will inform the work that will be happening at the school level, with the goal of each school also having their own equity committees to advance this work at the more local level, if you will. And so what I'd like to do now is just to pause to entertain any questions that you might have regarding the work so far or any steps moving forward.
Anyone have questions?
You could even type it in the chat here to be read.
Sure.
Just want to say, Dr. Highland are very important. The board supports it 100% and continued success.
Thank you. I mean, I've been very much impressed with the level of commitment of all the committee members and the work that we've done so far. I think that the people around the table on our committee are very agentic. They're very motivated, and I'm excited about that. At the same time, I do want to say that we recognize the times that we're in right now. We recognize that our students, our teachers, our staff members are really trying to navigate these times. And we understand that that has to be the priority. And so we recognize that there has to be a balance. We want to make sure that we're doing the work and doing good work, but we also have to do it within the context of now. And so really trying to frame it in ways that people feel as though they can have impact, but not overburden some because of all the other things that they're navigating right now, and trying to find that balance of respect in their time, but also respecting the need for this work to move forward.
We have a good roadmap. The meetings have been very productive. The hour and a half goes very fast. And, you know, we have a very good plan moving forward for each meeting. And as Dr. LeBlanc said, it won't be, you know, probably, I would say after the next meeting, the subcommittees will probably start meeting pretty soon after that. So it'll really be more than one meeting a month, but the main group will just meet once a month. So it's going very well.
And have those participants been pretty active as far as attendance at the meetings and such?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. And also communicating in between meetings.
Good.
So one of the things that we've recognized is that we're entering into the meeting with different levels of background knowledge. And so one of our goals is to kind of establish shared understanding of not just what some of the issues may be, but also just broadening our literacy and understanding of some of the terminology, some of the broader things. And so We're also been creating a resource document, essentially like a resource room where people have been contributing things to it. We have a lot of expertise around the table in our committee. And so what's exciting is the ability for us to tap into the expertise that exists around the table and really try to best leverage the expertise of the committee members. And so looking to each other as resources, I think, is a critical aspect of what we've been doing. And there's been a lot of good dialogue and conversation, around the work so far, and a lot of excitement about things moving forward, particularly around the curricular things. We focused a lot on of looking at our curriculum through the lens of helping it to become more culturally responsive. And I think that's something that many people have been excited about. I think it's an important action step that we can take. And so we've been sharing documents so that we can have a shared understanding of some of these bigger issues. And more importantly, ways in which different committee members can provide assistance based on their area of expertise.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, so thank you for your help so far, Dr. LeBlanc, and hopefully at some point in time you'll be able to come back to the board as a whole, and I think the end result is some recommendations to the board to move forward with.
Right. No, I very much would like that as well. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If anyone else has a question? Okay. Thanks, Dr. LeBlanc. We'll probably meet up again at one of our future meetings.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on with acceptance of reports. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, acknowledges reviewing and accepting the following reports that is presented at this meeting. Board of Education meeting minutes, November 10th, 2020, and December 8th, 2020, claims audit report, December 2020, treasurer's reports, December 2020, extra classroom activity statement, October 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Can I have a motion, please? Just raise your hand. Motion by Sue, second by Ed. Discussion?
Yeah, Lisa, I just have a few questions on the treasurer's report. Of the 3.5 million that's unencumbered as of the end of December, at what point in the school year does some of that money become encumbered?
Okay, so we have approximately $500,000 that belongs to debt service. That's on page 13 of the general fund budget status report. We have that will become encumbered once we know what the $6 million debt service will be. We are experiencing savings in areas of transportation and O&M because of the closure. So I expect more to be encumbered in the spring. Again, we have some, I'm just looking very quickly through here. I think during the spring, you'll see more encumbrances.
Okay. On the, you have a recap report that shows all of the money in our various accounts, which I really love. Could you include a total column at the end of that so we can see the total amount of money that we have?
Sure.
And my last question has to do with the capital project on the treasurer's report. Some of the dollar amounts are in the negative.
Are you talking about the budget status report?
I'd have to close out before I'd.
Okay.
I know it was the capital project, and
So there are negatives in the budget status report for capital. Don't be concerned about that. It's just because the allocations have shifted. Also because it's the way WinCap carries over from one year to the, no need for concern. If you look at the adjustment column, you'll see there was a $6.4 million adjustment. We had the $7 million total budget. It's fine, Sue. I don't worry about the category.
Category, yeah, it's just category. Anytime I see it,
Yep.
negative number, it's just like,
Yep,
okay,
Any
that was, yep. Thank you.
No other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Under curriculum and instruction, our principal monthly reports, Joel?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I would like to start 2021 out by just thanking people. I have quite a few to thank. In my main office, I have Ashley Carey, who is basically working alone currently, but she works tirelessly troubleshooting tech. Many tech questions come to her before they even go to the tech office. So we are very thankful to have her working in our main office. She works in concert with Mr. Darling on a daily basis, trying to get Chromebooks swapped out with students. She makes calls to the tech department. So she really has been a great asset to us. I also would like to thank Matt Darling and Kristen Candia. One of the things that they've been doing recently is, especially during this remote time, you know, every once in a while, a child will fall off the radar. They have taken time, they've made phone calls, they've made home visits, they've tracked children down that have not been logging in as often as possible. So that's a lot of legwork. And the one, I guess, nice part about being in a remote setting right now is that there is time where they can leave the building to go and meet with families and do this work. So thanks to them. And then just my teachers in general, I want to thank them for all that they've been doing to make these last few weeks. And for those that remember, we were actually remote before the holiday break. But teachers have been working very hard. And one of the things that they do is they're working, especially with our youngest children, to get them prepped for when we are in a remote situation. So there's a lot of learning happening in school to prepare those children for when they are remote. And one of the things that came to my attention in the past couple of weeks that I wasn't even aware was happening is that teachers, when they had the students in school, they went around and they set alarms on all of the iPads so that children, when they were in remote settings, didn't have to rely on a parent to remind them when they're supposed to log on. So all the iPads had little, you know, just like your iPhone, you have an alarm that says, you know, at 9:30, your alarm goes off. That's your signal that you have to be in a Zoom with your teacher. So this has been very helpful to parents, especially those parents that are working and send their children off to daycare so that children are logging on. So just a lot of kudos to staff members. We say it every month, but this month we really have to also acknowledge Maria McCarthy and her folks for the hard work that they're putting in, getting those meals out every week. And then the two people working in my health office, I put it in my report, they made 87 phone calls the few days before the holidays when we had to do contact tracing. So 87 phone calls might not seem like a lot, but when you're making those phone calls over and over again to make sure you're making connections, there were quite a few hours that Sue Morano and Kelly Hurley put in. So just we'd like to acknowledge them. And then I will thank myself and Mr. Darling for this TSI process. For the last 2 days, we went through the data that came in from the TSI surveys that we did with our faculty over the last the curriculum and the faculty meeting. There were 440 questions on those surveys, and we tallied every single one of the 89 surveys. So we have some data. I can't tell you what the data says right now because we just finished a few hours ago, but it's going to give us some good information moving forward through the TSI process. So thank you, Mr. Freer, and thank you, Mr. Darling. Any questions? Oh, I think Mr. Bakatsias probably should thank Tasso for letting him steal his device tonight because he's Tasso online.
Honestly, I've been trying to change the name, but I guess they have it set, something with the intruder, whatever.
That's
So,
right. We won't let you change it.
yeah, right.
There you go. Does anyone have any questions about the report?
No, thank you, Mr. Fear. Thanks, Mr. Darling, and all your staff. Great work.
All right.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Ryan, is Ryan up?
I'm in for Ryan tonight. Good morning or good evening,
Ryan.
everyone. I would like
Hey,
to
Matt.
echo the same sentiments as Joel in regards to thanking all of our staff, including Nurse Heidi, who has done a phenomenal job of keeping all of us up to date on our staff and who needs to be quarantined. And she's done it with respect and dignity and really kept all of us safe, which has been a huge blessing for our building. So we certainly thank her a lot. The only thing we would like to add to tonight is that today there were groups of our staff, including Ryan and I, who met with Dr. Jess LeBlanc. It was received very well by our staff, and Ryan and I had a really great conversation with Dr. LeBlanc, and we're certainly looking forward to working with him, and so is our staff in the near future. And we are just as tired with our TSI surveys, Joel, so we certainly understand checking boxes and looking at the same questions over and over again. But the data has been phenomenal, and we have some great ideas moving forward. Our team has been doing really great work so far, and we're going to move forward and look for some really great things to come. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colburn.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmer.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have two items for my report to highlight, but before that, I feel a little pressure to thank people now. So I'll just say thank you to everyone who works at and with the high school for doing a phenomenal job. Moving along, two things I'd like to highlight from my principal's report is our Peer Leadership Club. Peer Leadership started a new initiative to help students feel welcome at Highland High School. New students feel welcome. Peer leadership members will also now be known as peer ambassadors. The goal is to help new students transition to our school environment. Students, especially now, as you know, have a lot of technology to master in order to be successful. Since schools across the country probably use different technology systems, one duty of the peer ambassador is to give each new student a tutorial on how to use ClassLink, Office 365, Zoom, and Schoology. They will also be a student buddy of sorts to give the new student a connection in the building besides their counselor or teachers. So we're excited about that. And that just started this past week, or actually just before. No, it happened just this week, right after we came back from break. Also, I'd like to point out about our Teens Closet. I'm very excited about this. Counselor Danielle Garcia is creating a Teens Closet at Highland High School. The goal of the Teens Closet is to help provide essential products to students who are in need. I'm sure we all agree that every student should be able to come to school feeling healthy, confident, and ready to learn. Providing these products will help boost student self-esteem. High school faculty and staff have donated items such as shampoo, conditioner, soap, deodorant, oral and feminine hygiene products, as well as new and gently used clothing. Any student will be able to see Ms. Garcia to shop free of charge to obtain any needed items. I'd like to thank Danielle Garcia for spearheading this project that I think will last a long time and is much needed. And that's all I have for this evening.
Yeah, Bill, just a comment, just reading through your peer ambassador program, I think just a little thing that they added in terms of providing new students with some Husky spirit wear. I think it's a little step, but probably really goes a long way to show that they're part of the team. So I think that's a phenomenal idea.
Thank you for pointing that. I actually crossed that sentence out of my notes as I was trying to cut things down. But yes, the club is giving Husky wear to students to help welcome them to our district.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, Bill, I was going to bring up that teen closet. Well, what a phenomenal project that is, because I constantly think about the kids in need in our area, in the county, and it's just that's tremendous. So
And
good
we
for
have
Danielle.
Any student, we won't ask if they are in need or not. Anybody can come and get things. And
That's really great.
nicely, it's going to be housed in one of the rooms in the library, where our mailboxes, our faculty mailboxes used to be. We're moving that to the faculty room, and we're going to have that at the teens closet in one of the rooms in the library. There's some privacy in there, so other students won't be able to see who's in there. And I recently sold my house and moved, and I donated one of those carousels to hang clothing on. Like, you know, I have way too many clothing, way too many clothes, but I donated one just for that reason. So we're just starting to set it up, and we're very excited about it. So thank you. So.
No, great.
Yeah.
Bill, your initiative and the middle school and the elementary, and that's touching upon, one of our goals for this year was, maintaining and, this and supporting the social and emotional needs of our students. So thank you very much.
Bill, this is Camille. Are there any other items that are in need at this point?
As of right now, we don't have a full inventory, but I'll be happy to share. We're of course always welcome to receive any donations. We put an email out to the faculty and staff before, right when December started. So we do have some items, but as I said, we haven't been able to take an inventory yet. So I will be happy to share if there are any specifics, if we're lacking of anything.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
going forward, can you include the board on that? Because I would certainly be
That would
interested.
Very helpful.
We will absolutely send an email. Yes.
I did, I emailed sorry, Camille, I said your name instead of Danielle's name, to ask when I saw Bill's report, and all she told me was hangers right now. So I've taken care of hangers, but I'm sure, once the students get back in the building, I'm sure there are some items we'll learn we go through more quickly than others. I know from just reading, I've done a lot of time, like health or personal hygiene products are usually very popular because a lot of those things aren't covered by other support that families get. So, if you see things on sale or in ads, you could pick up some of those, and I'm sure they'd always be welcomed.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions for Mr. Zimmer?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question for Bill, but I had a comment for all three. Megan, thank you for representing the middle school tonight. Joel, thank you for your effort, and any of those little pieces where we could help parents deal with the technology are fantastic. And good luck with the surveys and that application process, and Mr. Darling as well. Great job, everybody. Keep up the good work.
Okay, moving on to our director's report. We have most of our directors here this evening, so if you have any questions for the directors, I'm sure they'll be able to answer.
I have a couple questions for Karen. Karen, you there?
Karen,
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
So you are there. Okay.
Yeah.
On your report, you said that benchmark 1 are still being submitted for analysis. So
Yes.
when do you project?
I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks. Right now, I gave you a sample of what I could. I was hoping to have
Right.
the whole thing for you guys. You could see in kindergarten, they really held strong, and they actually did very well.
Oh, I thought it was just a sample. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh.
actual results. They
Of
did
what it would
wonderful.
look like. Okay.
I've done first grade went out Monday. 5th grade went out. I was able to do that. We're still missing like a few teachers here and there, and I don't like to finalize a grade until I have everything in. And I break it down with all the classes, and then I break self-contained out separate so we can see also how that looks, especially in the higher grades. But really pretty much what I'm seeing, we're looking exactly like the research data that's coming in from STAR and for the pandemic of regression. It looks like our hardest grade hits our 5th grade. I don't know 4th yet because I'm still waiting on 3 teachers in 4th. But and again, it's because we've been remote for 2 weeks. It's
Yeah.
getting some of those back from homes, so it takes a little bit longer. But I've actually been quite happy with what I'm seeing. I think people were nervous, and what I'm seeing is we're holding strong,
Okay.
which is a good thing.
Okay, so 2 weeks, we should
Your
see.
next board report will have
2
it
to 3
definitely in it.
weeks. Okay,
Yeah, because
All right.
I'm actually sending out tomorrow because we're getting ready at the end of the month to do benchmark 2. So I need to know what they want changes, if we want to change anything, if we want to. Only grade that actually shortened the test was first grade because they wanted to focus more on instruction. So they cut it down, the test down to 10 questions, which is reliable. We went through and they picked the standards that they were focusing on. And what they usually have is like 3 or 4 questions per standard in the way they could actually be presented. And it went well.
Okay. Okay. You also had a mention of attendance in your report, of measuring attendance. That's being worked on. Can you elaborate?
That's coming from the state, and that's coming down from the state.
Okay.
And we're going to be updating the student management system at the end. We had a training on that today through the RIC, and that was a district data coordinator meeting, and that was actually really good.
The state has come out with a new way for us to record attendance during this time right now, so that we need to be keeping track not only of students. I mean, we've been keeping track of all of our students, but in the student management system, we'll need to separate whether it's a remote student or a hybrid student, or if it's the hybrid student, but the day that they're at home. So it's quite confusing, and it was a little bit frustrating because the guidance was sent out, I think, in like November, and we had already had things in place. So now we're going to have to go back and kind of superimpose these new requirements on the way we had been taking attendance. It's definitely a headache, and it's going to take a lot of work, not only for Karen, but for the buildings, for Lisa, because it's all tied into state aid and a lot of things. So it's a kind of it's a big ask, I think, for state ed, but we're working through it and trying to figure out the best way moving forward to do it.
Right. It's just I've been concerned because it's been so many months, and I get concerned about the teachers. I get concerned about parents. I get concerned particularly about the students. I'm taking an online course here, and I fry out in about 2 hours, and I just can't imagine what it must be like being 9 years old. And it's just, are we getting as much value as possible? And I get concerned about the kids just dropping out, not really, but just dropping out of logging in.
So I was going to talk about this a little bit in my report, but I think now is a good time as well. Well, first of all, certainly we have teachers who are really working really hard to try to prevent that from happening. But we did just since we were back after break, I asked the principals to put together for me. They've been monitoring it all along, but to put together for me who our kind of MIA students are, the ones that we just are having a tough time. And as Joel mentioned, every building is doing home visits, is making phone calls, is using their support staff to try to keep kids connected as much as we possibly can. But I think, one of the real benefits of the size of Highland and the real family feeling that we've created within the district is most of the students who are on that just tough to pull in group are a lot of the same students that were tough to pull in when we were in our normal school environment as well. So these are families that we've been working on for a very long time, over several years. We're still working really hard to try, again, I think being able to do those home visits just because of a different environment in the buildings right now, I think will help pay off for us. I think having TAs that can do some outreach instead of being as focused internally to what's happening in the building, they have some time to do the outreach. I think a lot of those things are really paying off. And so for us, it's looking at next year or whenever it is that we're back in our traditional environment, what can we keep of those things that we've been doing this year to try to, keep the students that we grabbed this year, but also to continue to work with or to prevent prevent us from losing some of those students. But and it truly is just a small handful of families, some of them across buildings, but across the district. So we're having, you know, continual conversations about that and working really hard on that.
Okay, any other questions?
I just have a quick question for Mr. Boyd. On your report, just looking at the 504 accommodation plans, looks like we don't have any in kindergarten, which obviously I think is a good thing, but just wondering, is that indicative of being a little bit behind in trying to do those assessments, or is that kind of natural based on the time of the year and they're the first year in our buildings?
I'll say it's pretty typical to have a very low number there. So I think it's, I think circumstance, you know, I don't want to say that because of our situation, that the reason why we don't have any. You know, in the past, we've had students that come in with them to start on day one. And in past years, we've had some years starting with 0. So it is typical to be a very, very low number. You know, when I did it, each month I look and I wait for maybe we'd have for us 1 or 2 that come across as something. So I'm not really sure that there's an exact reason why there's 0.
So you don't feel that you're behind on, just given the way that we're doing school in between the hybrid and then the full remote, that has had an effect on your work in that area?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, any of that stuff would come in. A lot of that is based on, some of the 504s are based on doctor, you know, outside doctor diagnosis anyways. So, you know, for example, an ADHD diagnosis from a doctor that came in that, you know, we would provide a 504 accommodation plan for.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Boyd, I have a question for you also. I saw in your report you referenced the public consulting group. Have they been enlisted to help us maximize our Medicaid reimbursements?
So the public consulting group is the one hired by the state to kind of oversee everything with Medicaid. We use the management advisory group that helps us to maximize our Medicaid reimbursement. So the PCG they do more of oversight and audits on everything.
Yeah, I kind of meant it going in that direction. I apologize. But no, that's good. Are we, you know, getting a pretty good buy-in on this from family groups?
I will say I think it's improving year to year. We meet at least probably once every 6 months from our representative from the management advisory group. He gave us kudos in December when we met with him for how we're doing. A big part of the Medicaid reimbursement is getting the consent from parents.
Yeah.
It's usually a one-time consent. At the beginning of this year, we reviewed all of those again and sent out more consents for some of the ones we haven't received in the past. And we received a good amount back this fall. And we sent out a few different notices for the families. And some of the ones that even provide consent won't qualify, but we get it anyways, just to have in case they do.
I'm glad you're following up on that, because that, like anything else, is another income stream.
Right. And I mean, and if you know, the parent has a right to not provide the consent,
Right.
you know, if they explicitly state that, then we don't send them out any more notifications.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to echo Mike Vacazius' comments before to our principals, because the same shout out to our directors. These are trying times, we all know that. Every day is a different, unique situation, and you guys come through and make things happen. I know it's challenging all the way around. I'm especially impressed with our food service department and under the leadership of Maria McCarthy. 23,000 pickups as of December 19th. I mean, that's amazing for a staff that's probably short-staffed, but able to do that. And 23,000 is a lot of breakfast and lunches to go out to the families. And Sarah, just quick, while I'm thinking of it, the backpack program, is that still, moving forward in a
Um, it,
unusual situation here, but how's that moving?
well, the Methodist Church is still doing some of that work, but we're not distributing from the school like we had said. So in the spring, he had moved it to families coming once a week to pick up from the Methodist Church. And I believe they continued through the summer and they have continued through the fall. And I have to admit, I haven't had a lot of contact with them this school year, as I have in the past, but my understanding is that it is continuing to happen, that we are getting food to, I think, a pretty regular group of families. And I know that they also distributed gifts at the holidays to our families. They were in contact with our social workers / support group staff at each of the buildings as well. So that partnership is continuing, but we're just sending it home from the buildings right now, for a lot of different reasons, but partly because of just not having extra stuff in the classrooms and that kind of thing. And truthfully, I think the parents and the students were fairly grateful to be picking it up from the church rather than, especially at the middle school level, sometimes there was stigma attached to having the backpack. And so students, sometimes they take it, but then, they throw parts of it away or they feel uncomfortable. So this has been kind of a good solve for that. I'm sure once we get back into a more normal routine and environment, we might need to combine some of that a little bit more than we have this year.
Thank you. And again, thank you to all our directors.
Yeah, Al, real quick, I got a question for Carol. Carol, I see in your report, you made reference to replacing 3 of the core switches, or the 3 core switches. And comment was made internet and some programs run a little faster. That's kind of telling me that, do we need a little more there, or is there other things that we're not doing technology wise that we, could help the staff and students?
Well, I guess what I meant was we were piggybacking on the network that was put in, the 10 gig network that was put in for the security cameras and the door access.
Okay.
So we saw a little bit of an increase, but almost really nothing. It just stopped a bottleneck from speed at our core switches that were outdated and could no longer be upgraded.
Right.
So we were running pretty well and pretty fast by piggybacking onto that day automation infrastructure backbone they put in for the cameras. This just made our whole our whole internal network speed up, connect faster at each building to go from building to building. And directly from the high school to BOCES, it wouldn't have been a bottleneck. So when we increased our bandwidth, it helps at the high school where the internet comes from BOCES. It just sped that up a little.
Yeah, it helps pass that along.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm getting at. So
yeah,
yes, it did make things better and probably cleaned a lot up also in the process.
I think it did. I think those were the last pieces that were they just came like end of life for the maintenance to get upgraded. Right. So because we had E-rate, it was the perfect time to just replace them. They're very expensive and they'll last another, another 10 years easy, based their Cisco products. So now it's there's just now some connections that we need to fix and upgrade the connections. It's where the switches are all stacked.
Right.
And we don't necessarily have to do that. But if we get some E-rate money, we might as well clean it up and get it running. I think I meant like programs that connect straight through BOCES might have run a little better, although I didn't notice any real change because, like I said, we kind of had it fixed, so it still ran pretty well. I think the only thing we may need in the future is a little bit more bandwidth increase, but right now I think it's great. I mean,
Where are we at now? Are we at 500 meg or you're less than that?
We're right about 500. We don't have what the other districts, we don't really need it based on our size. But I think things like maybe some Zoom connections when all the kids log on at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
could help
we're
that.
we're specking these out now for everybody's full remote and then
Right.
working our way back. So I hear you.
Right. Right. So we did increase our bandwidth at BOCES, and I think we're about 450, something like that. And just doing that last little piece made everyone, we all felt a lot better getting that done. It's pretty much paid for. So we'll work on the connections probably next summer if we get the money. And if that's like almost a whole redesign, and I'm sure Mike understands that, of the way the switches are
The
connected. So
big piece, great use of the E-rate monies. That's what
Yeah.
that stuff's for,
Yeah.
is those core internal connections. And thanks for bringing it up, Tom, because I was
Right.
going to bring it up also.
Right.
Nice work, Carol.
Yeah.
And via past project, we have that area pretty well climate controlled properly.
Yes, actually, yes, our last place was in the boiler room. That was a real problem, and that's
Right.
all fixed. It's great. We've
Excellent.
been upgrading little switch cabinets here and there where we need to, and there's probably just one more in the middle school we really got to work on, but doesn't necessarily have a climate control issue. It's more of a security issue. We have to really lock down a cabinet once, but
That's important too.
yeah, we're good. I think we're rolling along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Al, I had one more comment for Peter Miller. I read his report. It was quite in depth. And I just want to thank Pete because he's dealing with punch list items and still ongoing construction. And I know that isn't easy. So I just wanted to thank his effort for that.
Mike, I had that same comment to Pete today. Also, we're talking about a lot of those issues.
Great minds think alike, Mr. Miller.
Yes. Okay, is everybody good? We'll move on. Approval on Committee on Special Education minutes. Be resolved, the Board of Education hereby accepts the recommendation of the CPSE and CSE committees according to the information provided in regards to meetings and classified status of students. Meeting date range December 1st, 2020 to January 4th, 2021. All meetings were held virtually, either through Microsoft Teams or Zoom platforms. Total of 23 meetings held. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Tom, second by, I'm looking around, Ed. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Personnel, do you have any objection to taking personnel as a block from A through J? If you want to pull something out for a standalone, we can do that. If not, and you're okay with taking it as a block, we'll approve it as a block. We're good?
I'm okay as a block unless somebody has an issue.
Can I have a motion to move it as a block?
Motion.
Motion by Sue, second by Tom. Discussion? I'm sure Mr. Bon Jovi has some recognitions. I know we have one definitely.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
So, yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to certainly welcome any new employees, but I want to specifically congratulate and thank Carol Potash, receiving tenure for Director of Technology, and Verica Razi for tenure in the area of teaching assistant. And thank you to both of them for their continued hard work. And we know that they will continue down that path and be a great asset to the district.
Definitely. Congratulations, Carol.
Congratulations.
Carol and Erica. Okay, next are student reps, Jake and Farah. Farah, do you have anything you want to mention to the board? And then we'll let Jake go.
In regards to students adjusting to the 2-week period that we took off, I think it's been going well. I think students have been going to class on time and been engaged with the coursework that's been provided to us. And it doesn't seem like it's overwhelming.
Thank you. Jake?
I've seen through the 2 weeks that everyone has been, at least in my classes, everyone's been online, focusing, paying attention to classes, And I feel once the school is ready, it will be a lot better once we are in person.
Sure. And to both of you, I know it's difficult right now. You don't have a lot of that interaction with your peers, and you're not able to connect with both the elementary school and the middle school. So hang in there, and I think at some point real soon we'll be back into in-person teaching, and maybe then you'll have a better handle on interacting with your peers in the rest of the school buildings and be able to come back with more in-depth reports. So thank you for all you've done so far. We appreciate it. Are there any questions for our student reps?
If I could just ask them both to comment how they're personally dealing with online learning.
I'll go first, Jake. So I guess for especially as seniors, it was kind of hard juggling it with our college applications and sending them out. But the coursework hasn't really been that bad, and teachers have been very accommodating and they've been very understanding. So in regards to are we struggling? No. But is it hard because less interaction? Yes.
Thank you, Farah. Jake?
I agree with Farah. I've been definitely handling it as well as I can. I myself haven't been the best at doing online, but I'm also trying my best. And I think that all the teachers are always there if I need any help. And it's definitely the best kind of situation we could be in for the situation we're in.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your feedback.
Okay.
No, I appreciate their feedback also, and certainly Farah and Jake, and for all students here, we're trying to make the best out of a very difficult situation right now. So that is our goal and will continue to be our goal. And I know we can do better and we'll continue to strive to do better for all our students.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to business and operations, budget transfers. Be resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following budget transfer for the 2020-2021 school year as presented to the board at this meeting. Budget transfer number 5094, purpose other benefits and salaries, $68,200. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Sue, second by Camille. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Change orders. Hudson Valley Electrical, be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following Hudson Valley change orders. Change order for the high school for project 6208, amount $379.40. Change order CO1050007, the high school, amount $1,082.94. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Sue. Discussion?
I had just a question. Room 522 and 519C or Charlie, what locations or what classrooms were those?
Business office. Right, Pete?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
One, I believe, was the reconfiguring of the light switches. And
Yeah.
the other one was, I don't remember, dimming of the lights, or we had too many lights?
Yeah.
There's too many lights, yeah.
Too many lights, and we had to move them around. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Non-resident tuition rates 2020, 2021, be resolved, the Board of Education, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, authorizes the following 2020, 2021 estimated non-resident tuition rates. Grades K through 6, regular education, 11,924. Special education, $44,051. Grades 7 through 12, regular education, 13,873. Special education, $46,000. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Camille, second by Tom. I believe, Lisa, you had told me at one time, these are set by the state, these rates?
Yes, they are.
Right, and just for the public, this is, again, it is set by the state. It's something that we have to adopt every year. And, this is just if by chance we have someone coming from outside the district, which doesn't really happen much, those would be the tuition rates.
I know we had this discussion from previous public comments. These rates are they a true indication of our cost for regular education and special education, or this is just a formula that the state puts together based on our enrollment? You know that, Lisa?
Yep, this is a formula that the state utilizes for all districts throughout. They first do an estimated rate, and then once all of our final accounting is completed in June, they will do a final. So first it's estimated and then it's final. Again, it's the same formula the district uses throughout the state.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lisa. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. New York LAF notice, transition of investment consultant. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following amended definitions of investment consultant, marketing agent, services and marketing agreement, and other references to RBC Global Assessment Management Incorporated. Now be amended to read PMA Assess Management LLC or PMA Securities LLC as presented to the board at this meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Sue.
Mrs. Gillette, could you just give a quick explanation to the board and to the public of what this all refers to?
Sure.
Everybody needs that.
The district utilizes NILAF, New York Liquid Assets Fund, to do some investing. The oversight of NILAF is changing. It's changing from the RBC GAM to PMA. All this resolution does is to correct those contract documents that that exist between the district and NILAF. That's it.
Understood. Anybody have any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. So we're into budget season, so we have a bus budget presentation. I believe both and you're gonna, or
Lisa, you want me to bring it up? Yes, please.
Great.
So yes, it is that time of year, and we are looking at the bus replacement plan. We do this annually in January. We will be coming to the board in February with a facilities equipment replacement plan. Go ahead, Sarah. Next slide. Currently, this is a history of what we have purchased. In 2020, the voters approved 453,742, which gained the district 3 2029 passenger and 3 65 passenger vehicles. And as I outlined every year, you can see past 10 plus years of district vehicle purchases. Next slide. Mr. Miller, would you jump in here, please?
Based on vehicles we have that are aging out and keeping our fleet up to speed, we're asking for 2 65 passenger buses and 2 30 passenger buses for replacements. We actually will probably more than likely reduce the buses in the fleet by more than the 4 that are on here.
Also, the prices that you see are our best estimates. Right now, we have not received final quotes. We anticipate the cost to be less than what you're seeing right here. So we're looking at a total of 4 vehicles and for an approximate cost of $415,528. Resolution is on the next slide. If the board would like to move forward with this, I believe the latest day we can adopt this resolution is in March. It has to be 45 days before the vote. It has to be advertised. So just introducing the concept right now. Again, we'll discuss this in February. Questions, comments?
Is there
Mr. Miller.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Sue.
I'm just curious, with all this push for electric vehicles, is there such a thing as a fully electric bus yet? And is it worth looking into if there is?
I'm not aware of that at this point. I'm sure there's some prototypes out there. We're still in a situation where even propane is not readily available if you were to take long trips or anything like that. So we're kind of on the cleanest mode that we can use right now is propane.
Is that something we'd want to look into if it does exist?
I can ask a few vendors. I have not had anything sent to me or said to me that we were looking at electric buses yet.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure if it exists yet. Yeah, we'll look into it though.
Peter, on the 30-passenger bus, I mean, that's the only fuel is gas. We can't go propane on the 30 passengers?
No, they're gasoline. There's no propane as of yet.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions?
Mr. Miller, you just noted that you will likely reduce the fleet by more than the 4 vehicles that that you're proposing in here. You still feel comfortable based on that statement that we have enough to go around, even given kind of, I know the situation, obviously, you know, people may, if you think about it quickly, say, why do we need so many buses? Because we're not in school buildings so much. But when you are, you know, obviously when you are transporting students, now you need additional distance between, so you can't transport as many people on the same vehicle as we used to. And you know, times will change kind of back and forth, but do you feel comfortable with just proposing the 4 that we have enough? Just looking back at the plan, it looks like that's lower than we typically go. So just want to make sure.
Yeah, I believe that, you know, we're trying to kind of like look in the crystal ball to see where we're going to go if things go back to whatever the new normal is. And of course, in the last few years, the demographics of the fleet have changed a lot because of specials and homeless and things like that we had to deal with. We've covered those items, and the fleet is larger than it's ever been. But we feel that the 4 will suffice at this point in time. And also, I think that there's a certain amount of financial guidance that drives the bus replacement also.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Lisa, did you want to continue on this budget calendar?
Sure. The next presentation that we have for you is regarding the property tax cap. And for those members of the audit committee and the support services committee, we met with our financial advisors this afternoon, and we reviewed the what if the district looked at a capital project vote during the 21-22 school year. Some of the information that we received earlier, I'll review in this presentation so you can see what happens if we don't do a vote and what happens to the tax cap. Okay,
Go ahead. All right. So yes, we are in the very beginning phases of budget planning. I will review with you the tax cap. It's now in the year. What we know right now is the tax base growth factor is 1.0094 for Highland. We know what the payment in lieu of taxes are. The district has 2. We do not know what the estimated allowable growth factor is. That's the 2%. Last year it was 1.8%. We should find that out probably by the middle of next week, the end of next week, the latest. I'm utilizing an estimated rate of 1.2% for change in the CPI for a year. And we are finding out what the exclusion amounts are. And we do not have any torts or judgments. There will not be an exclusion for ERS or TRS. So I'm focusing on the capital levy. And that's why it's important that we talk about this upcoming capital project. Okay. All right. Very, very busy slide, which I will try to make very easy to follow. So what this is a trend report from 2021, that's our current fiscal year, back to 2016. So our current fiscal year, if you look towards the bottom, you can see that we had a tax levy of 29,181,381, and that's in the current column, the very bottom. It was a tax levy increase of 3.1%. The boxes that are highlighted in red are the exclusion for the capital levy. That is, it represents the difference between the principal and interest payments, the debt service the district pays, the aid. So it's basically the local share. That's the first column, our current year. If you look at the following columns, the 2020, 2019, 18, 17, 16, you can see the history of the tax cap. If you also look at the arrows guide you. For example, look at the pilot's receivable in our current year, we're 17,319. If you follow the arrow to 2020 column, you'll see that these numbers carry forward year to year. So what may be an exclusion and deducted in one year is added into the second year. It's all part of the tax cap equation. But what I'm showing you with the arrows is just so you can trace what has happened in prior years and you can follow the numbers where they go. Same thing with the capital tax levy. You can see in the current column 2021, the 1,399,635. Where does that number come from? It carried forward from the prior year of 2020 on the very bottom. So you can see again where these numbers come from and how they actually impact not just one year, it's 2 years. The very bottom of the page, you see a circle around the 88,451. And folks, when I brought this up, I looked at that, I was like, what do you mean there's a difference, 88,451? So I went back in my notes, 2020 had to be amended, the tax cap had to be amended because the calculation for the current year, 2021, was changed. It was changed because districts were now required to include the BOCES capital exclusion. That law had been on the books for years. It had never been included in the prior year tax cap calculation. So in order to get an accurate 2021, the state required districts to go back and reconfigure 2020. That's where that number came from. It was a reconfiguration. So bottom line for this page, you know, our current 2021 property tax cap calculation that gave us a tax levy of 29,181,381. It represents a 3.1% increase in the levy. And you can see the history for the past 5 years of the tax cap calculation. Okay? Just to give you some history. Next slide. So where are we going? This all aligns with a long-range financial plan. This is another reason that I'm presenting this to you. Again, here is the first column is the current 2021 tax cap calculation. Now you can see the arrows are moving towards the right. You can see the projected pilots in the middle of that current budget column of 24,449 will become the new number in 21-22 called the prior year pilots. And you can follow it forward, how that number impacts every year. In the 21-22 column, the numbers that are highlighted green are the numbers that we know right now. Okay, we know that the tax base growth factor is 1.00940. We know the prior year pilots are 24,449. We know that the prior year capital levy is 1,317,642. The yellow allowable growth levy is 1.012, estimating, and I carry that across. We'll know that again by the end of next week. And the projected pilots, I actually have that number. It's 37,985. The big question right now is the local capital levy share. I'm estimating that at 1,484,731. I do not have a final number. Again, capital levy is computed by looking at the district's debt service payments, which are principal and interest payments for the building projects and any bus purchases, and subtracting any state aid for building aid and transportation related to bus purchases. Okay, I won't know that until the governor presents his budget numbers next week, hopefully. I received an estimated debt service projection from our financial advisors. That is the number that they utilize, the 1,044,731. But again, it will take some time to review and compute. I will be working on this the end of next month and should have a better presentation for you in February once more factors are known. Now, if you look at the very bottom of the 21-22 column, you'll see with the actual numbers and the estimated numbers, the district is projecting a levy of 29,947,189, or a 2.6% increase in the levy. Is that what it's going to be? No, it's not. I don't have the final numbers. This is just a projection. So if you look across the bottom of the page and you look at the 22-23, you'll see that the levy is similar, 30.6 million or a 2.2% increase. And then you come to the 23-24. Well, Well, there is a difference, a significant difference in the levy increase. And let me explain why. If you look on the 23-24 column and you look at the local capital levy share, 1,533,594, it's right in the middle of the page towards the right, and then go down to the bottom, follow the yellow. The local capital levy share projected drops from 1.5 million to 1,055,714. Well, why is that? That is because our debt service, our principal and interest payments fall off for a bond issue. And when we spoke with Bernie Donegan's company tonight, our financial advisors, they were instructing the district, showing the district how to have level debt. And why is it important to have level debt? So you don't see your fluctuations or like this in your tax cap calculation. It all is very sensitive and it all ties together. So that goes forward, that 1,055,714 is brought forward to the 24-25 calculation. And hopefully everybody can see that. And then at the bottom of the local capital levy share, it's already fallen off from the prior year and it's going to increase slightly, 1,108,92. So that year, 23-24, is when our debt drops off. That's why it's important to have conversations about debt and looking at projects to sustain level debt and how that impacts your tax cap calculation. Now, I've done an awful lot of talking right now. Does anybody have any questions? It's an awful lot to comprehend and look at. The prior slide was our history. This is our projection going forward for the next 4 years.
I appreciate the time that went into this because I could follow it because I'm also seeing the little pluses and minuses down the left side of the column.
Yep.
To kind of let us know what the true equation is. And that's the first time I've seen that, I believe. So thank you, Ms. Gillette.
Thank you. It's, this is a calculation we work on for a couple months out of the year, and then you put it away, and you dust back off in the fall, and you start looking at your pilots, and you start listening what is happening at the state, what is going on throughout the country with CP, and you continue to look at your debt. We've been focusing on our debt. When does it fall off? When do we need level debt? I'm very, very happy that we had this meeting today between the support services and audit committee. I hope that folks, if you don't understand, if you want more information, I'd be more than happy to explain or ask Bertie's office to come in and do a presentation for the entire board. But this is very important as part of your long-range financial planning. Okay. Any further questions? Why do you use the numbers you use? Where did you get your information?
Thank you, Mrs. Gillette. You're taking, I know you love this stuff and most people do, but you're taking, a very complicated concept and you're breaking it down. There's clearly a lot of work done here and a lot of work done to make it clear to the layperson. So I appreciate your efforts.
Okay, so where are we right now? Again, next week, we anticipate the governor to release his executive budget numbers. On February 9th, the board meeting, we will talk about transportation again. Well, hopefully we'll have firm numbers. Mr. Miller will be presenting a capital acquisition resolution. And we will also be looking at state aid and revenue, and part of revenue is the tax cap calculation. And March 1st is the deadline to submit the tax cap to the comptroller's office. Okay. And then, of course, the last slide is where are we with budget planning, the budget calendar. Questions, concerns?
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Sarah, you're up.
Okay. I think I'll continue the theme of thank yous this evening. Certainly echoing what everyone else has said, but I do want to send another special thank you to our health officers and our nurses. I have always had confidence in them, but now I'm working with them much more closely, truly on not even a daily basis, but an hourly basis through all of this. And I have to commend them for the calmness. They're looking at different situations. And when I say hourly, it's because almost every situation that comes forward, we have to talk through quarantine or positive or negative. And you think that it should be a just really cut and dry kind of conversation, but it really, the circumstances around every one of the situations is very different. So they're really doing a great job of using the kind of flow charts that the county has sent us. And again, we kind of talk through every situation and how many people that's going to impact. They are in constant contact with Ulster County Department of Health, literally on a first name basis with the people there. So they're doing a tremendous job keeping our buildings and our staff and students as safe as possible during this whole time. So that they're really doing an amazing job. And again, thank you to the rest of our folks who are going above and beyond on a daily basis. It's really noticed, and it certainly helps our students and our staff. Updates on the racial equity initiative. Certainly you saw Dr. LeBlanc kind of gave you an update on the work that he's doing, but additionally, we are doing some work internally. He mentioned the Panorama, or a survey that we're using with Panorama. I mentioned that last meeting, but we're finalizing right now the survey questions with the idea. I have a meeting with the company on Friday. We should be able to get all the necessary things in place so that we can start sending those out and doing the surveys the end of January into the beginning of February. So these surveys are going to be going to students, staff, as well as parents. The parent, it's an online format. You can access it from any platform, whether it's your cell phone, your iPad, your desktop, whatever you might want to use. We'll be giving lots more information out about that as we finalize this. It'll be open for about 2 weeks, and it's estimated to take between 15 and 20 minutes tops to do the survey. Certainly to get the best return on those surveys, we don't want it to be something that's onerous or takes a long time for people to do. So our community members, our parents can expect to see those coming out the end of January, early February. With students, we will be doing those in district. Grades 6 through 12, definitely, we're still kind of looking at the 3 through 5 questions to make sure. We're working with the principals right now to implement a plan for how we're going to make that happen. Again, that's one of our benefits now of our one-to-one devices. All students do have devices that they'll be able to do these on. And then again, we're discussing how we're going to have staff do the questions. And while each group of stakeholders have different questions, they're going to be asking questions about the same topics. So of course they're developed with the stakeholder in mind, or with the developmental level of the student in mind, and written so that we're getting a perspective on what parents feel about the environment in our buildings, what their students are experiencing, but then also looking at how students feel about that as well. So we'll be doing more of a PR push on that fairly soon. We should be able to get, generally speaking, with the parent or with the faculty as well as the student, we have a very high return rate. Usually it's, between 95 and 100% of students and faculty complete that survey. For parents, the number is much lower. A very successful survey usually comes in around 30% of total numbers. And that's just the way things work. Hopefully we can get more than that. But they do find that you get a representative number of people, and you do get a good cross section of how people are feeling, even with that smaller number of participants. So I'm looking forward to the results of those, and we're going to be using those results in different ways. One is certainly to inform the work of our racial equity committee and to help us in developing the goals for that committee. But we're also going to be looking at it from a learning and curriculum perspectives within the buildings. One of the reasons that we are doing this is because of our accountability status through the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is federal legislation. I've mentioned this before, but we were designated last school year for our Black and African American students and how they performed on the 3 through 8 ELA and math exams. We have other groups that are on the edge as well. So this is one way that we can get feedback from students and our greater community on moving forward and helping our students in that particular subgroup, but really all of our students perform better and feel better about being in our buildings. So that work that's going to be coming out, you'll be seeing that very soon. As far as the questions in the survey, just to give you an overview, we do use the questions that they have developed. I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, that these are nationally normed. They've spent a lot of time writing questions that give you an answer to the question you're really asking. Sometimes when we develop surveys within house, we don't really know the science behind creating a question, and you send out a question that seems very straightforward and seems like it would give you the information you want, and then you get the result back and you realize that they didn't read it the way you thought they were reading it. So this way we can look at this normed across the entire country and look at all kinds of different demographics, how other schools of our size compare, different grade levels, different socioeconomic levels, all of those things compare across a wide variety. So we'll be able to give you the results. I believe once we close the surveys, it's a couple of weeks before we really start to look at that, or we'll have the data in our hand, but we'll be giving you updates on that as we go through. Also with our racial equity initiative, I'm meeting with our instructional council group tomorrow afternoon. It's our normal monthly meeting. That's all our grade level coordinators and department chairs. And we're going to be looking at plans for Black History Month across all of those areas. And one thing that I had talked about trying to do in the summer, but then our planning for reconfiguring school kind of got in the way of that. But I am planning to do a faculty book study in the month of February and March with the book Stamped. I'll give you a little bit more information about that next month, but that is something that I'm looking forward to finally rolling out now that we're more into the school year and things are, I won't say predictable, but they're at least feeling a little more regular on a daily basis. So I will give you more of an update about how many teachers we have participating in that next month. Another thank you or kudos or appreciation goes out to our staff. As many of you know, the governor just opened phase 1B of the vaccination process, and members of the school community are are part of 1B, and our staff really jumped on that opportunity, starting setting up appointments on Saturday. We had, in the first day, which was yesterday, Monday the 11th, we had between 90 and 100 of our faculty and staff who received the first dose of the Moderna vaccination. So that's about a third of our overall faculty and staff, and that's across administrators, teachers, TAs, support staff, all across the board. That was just in the first day of vaccination, and I know that there are many more who have appointments the rest of this week, as well as going into next week. So thank you very much to those that are able to get the vaccine. Thank you for your willingness. I think just sharing my own experience, I got my first dose yesterday, and truthfully, I got to my car and I actually shed a few tears. It was just a little overwhelming to think that I finally took some step in some direction towards moving out of all of this. It was quite much more emotional than I thought I was going to be about it. I was excited about it all day, and I thankfully, a little bit of soreness in my arm, but nothing that even slowed me down. I didn't even, unless I think about it, I don't even notice the pain. So please, for all of you out there, when you have the opportunity, please do go get that. There are many people within this phase 1B. And I think the governor, I thought I read this afternoon, just changed. It was people who are 75 and above, but I think he opened it up now to those 65 and above. So that's fantastic. As well as many frontline workers, police officers, firefighters, teachers. It's a very long list, so please go on to the state website. It is getting a little more difficult right now to find appointments. I do know that. I think it's a few weeks out, at least around here, to get those appointments. Also, kudos to, I got it done up in Kingston at the field house. What a tremendously well-run program. My appointment was at 4 o'clock. I got there about 4:45 probably. And I was out by 4:20. They were completely organized, ready to move me through. 15 minutes, they make you wait 15 minutes after you get the shot to make sure that nothing, you have no adverse reactions. So in that, 35 minutes, 15 minutes of it was me just sitting there, waiting for something to happen. So they've done a tremendous job getting that organized. I've talked to other friends and colleagues who had it done in other parts of the state, and they were talking about like 3 hours they were there. So Kingston and Ulster counties really did a fantastic job of streamlining the process and making it easy to do. So there's that. I've also been involved, as our other administrators have been, with evaluations. Certainly that's a little bit different this year. I've done a few of them in person, which is again different because the class sizes are so much smaller, aren't interacting in the same way that they normally would. But I've also been doing some virtual observations, and I have to say teachers are working really hard to to engage the students and to make it feel as normal as possible. I was really excited too that I've seen teachers really reaching out to the students and talking to them as individuals. I'll just share one. I observed a second grade art class, all virtual again, which is, not the easiest, but the teacher was doing a lesson on self-portrait, but the students needed to draw themselves as superheroes or with superpowers. And, she did a phenomenal job of getting them up and moving a little bit, because they had to demonstrate their superpower and think about how they might draw that if they had to draw themselves in that position. And, she gave a lot of individualized attention to the group while they were doing the drawing. I mean, it was a great experience. It was definitely the highlight of my week last week, but it's a good reminder that even in all of this that's going on, kids are still kids and they still love the same things and they still do the same things. And, teachers are working really hard to make that happen. So, that's going really well. And it's a great experience to see teachers doing that work. And then the last thing I alluded to already with our survey, that we were cited for accountability with that particular subgroup. Both the elementary school and the middle school are in the middle of completing the plan that we need to write for that. It's a high intensity couple of weeks that we're going through, as Joel mentioned and Megan mentioned. All of our teachers have gone through and done a needs assessment that asked them to evaluate the building on, how many was it, Joel? Like 47 different categories, and they have to decide if we have it in place, if we're working on it, or if it's something that we can work towards. And an example, they talk about leadership, it talks about instruction, it talks about social emotional learning, and then it has several categories underneath. It's a very intense process. It's confident, or it's confidential is not the word I'm looking for. It's totally forgot the word I'm looking.
Anonymous.
Thank you. Yes, totally lost it. They are anonymous teachers, and then there's a smaller group of teachers and the administrators who cull the information together, and then that will be shared with the rest of the staff as well as with the committee to form the plan. And it's in talking with Ryan and Megan last week, they had met with teachers. It's a really interesting experience, I think, for teachers to see how other teachers view the school and the school environment. I think it's a great way to see the things that we're already doing as well, to feel good about the work that's being done right now, and also to be realistic about, okay, how can we move forward? How can we move on from there? And I know specifically with Megan, I think it was great at the middle school to look at some of the work that has been done over the last 5 years. Teachers really recognized that had made a difference in the building. And again, now though, okay, what do we do next? What's the next step to take? So really great conversations happening with that. As part of this process, over the next week, I am meeting with groups of students to get a kind of one-on-one perspective of how they feel about the building and how they feel about their learning experiences in the building. And I'm also meeting with groups of teachers to more of an interview kind of situation to get their perspective on that as well. Eventually, we'll put all of that information together to come up with very specific goals that we'll be working on. All of this will be presented to you, to the board, at our next Board of Education meeting in February. So you're going to see the results of all of this for each building. At the moment, the high school doesn't have to go through all of that process. And I think that's always my frustration, because when the students get to the high school, they do really great. We're not even really on the edge. So the work that's being done at the elementary and middle school, it's going well because they get to the high school and it all seems to come together. So we're working on that. That's our big focus for the next few weeks, to get those plans in place. I think that is all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Bon Jovi.
Yes, Mr. President. Again, to everyone, welcome to 2021. I know we've been thanking everyone. Certainly, I want to thank the entire administrative cabinet for everything they've done throughout the school year, the Board of Education, but especially the students and the parents and guardians. This has been very difficult times for all of us. The change in the delivery of instruction, it really has put a burden on everyone. And I understand and appreciate that. And that's why, we've worked hard to balance. I know that, we have a number of people who've chosen the all remote mode of learning, but for those students and families who chose the hybrid model, we've worked hard to keep students safe in school and to balance, the needs of you with, the need to educate our students but to keep everyone safe. So, with that, we are scheduled to come back on Tuesday, the 19th. Monday is Martin Luther King Day. And then students are returning Tuesday. I do have a Ulster County Superintendent's meeting tomorrow, so I'll be meeting with all the superintendents in the county. If anything changes regarding the return to school on Tuesday, certainly we'll let you know, but right now we are on schedule to bring students back on Tuesday. And with that return, so winter sports actually would begin on Tuesday, the 19th. So the plan still is to have what sports that we can have. I've been working with the Section 9 and with the entire section and state as to organizing the beginning of sports. So winter sports, now for Highland, that will just be the indoor track and bowling. They will start practice on Tuesday, the 19th. That winter season ends on February 26th. Then, presuming everything stays status quo, we would have our fall sports season would begin March 1st, and then it would end April 30th, and then spring sports would begin May 1st and end around June 11th. Now, at this time, though, we have no authorization, no schools do, to do any of what they deem the high risk sports. So these are sports that just have high amounts of contact. So there, unfortunately, there will be no basketball, wrestling, or cheer in the winter. In the fall season, at the moment, there'll be no football or volleyball. And then in the spring season, there'll be no boys lacrosse. So it's certainly possible that some of that could change by the time those dates come, but that's where we are as of today. One thing as we come into the spring, we start to think of the 3 through 8 testing. Now, the 3 through 8 testing is a federal mandate. So I would imagine that will be one of the first things the new administration looks at is, will we be having nationwide the 3 through 8 testing? I'm not sure if we will. Really, no one can predict. The Regents exams, that's the state. So the January Regencies were postponed. And from the people I've spoken to, it's certainly a possibility that the June Regencies would be also not happen, but it's still too early to make that determination. So we will keep informed as we hear of any information regarding any of that state testing. I'll jump down to later in the agenda talks about support services, but I'll do that as part of my superintendent's report. So today we had a very productive support services meeting. I'll cover the highlights and then Mr. Miller or any member of the support services committee can jump in. So the main items remaining, number one, a canopy at the central administration entranceway. So we want to, for a number of reasons, we want to really distinguish that as the entrance of the central admin. It's, it is tough to see, to know where to go in sometimes if you're not familiar with our building. Also with the buzzer system, in inclement weather, people, you're waiting there in the rain or snow. So the canopy, there were some issues with the design, which were recognized by the architectural firm. So we will be pulling that part out. We have the canopy itself on site and we have the design. So we'll be utilizing an outside contractor to install that, and our architect will oversee the installation of that. The big item is the library roof. As I explained in the December or November meeting, perhaps, the library roof does need to be replaced. Not just the metal, sheeting over the roof, the actual kind of what we would call the tile of the roof. It's the metal roof. It was installed incorrectly. So Mr. Miller and I had a meeting with the architect and the construction company right before the winter break. And we they did agree that they are going to replace that roof. Now, really, underneath the underneath parts, which is, all of the, the waterproofing and the material that the actual roof sits on should be fine. And our architects and Mr. Miller, they will inspect that to make sure of that. So theoretically, just the metal roofing needs to be replaced. We did agree we're going to go with a slightly different design of a metal roof that does not need to be seamed by a machine. They fit together so that there doesn't need to be any crimping of the material. It has the same warranty, same wind resistance. Everything is the same quality. So right now that was just today. So we're going to get right on that. We were going to look at the different colors that are available. We will get some samples in the next week or two so that we can order the roofing so that hopefully as soon as the weather is good enough, they will install the new roof, remove the metal roof and put in a new roof. That will probably, though, not happen till I would say maybe March or April, depending on the weather. There was some, we did not get the correct ceiling tile that we wanted, that we ordered for central administration. So that was also agreed that they will be replacing what they put in, and they'll do that over our spring break between March 29th and April 2nd. The lights on the new turf field. So if you recall, we kept our poles and they just replaced the lights with nice brand new LED lighting. So those lights are all installed. They've been laser adjusted, and we're just finishing up putting the on-off switch in. So that will be ready for, for these winter sports. I would think in the next couple weeks, 2 weeks, those lights should be ready to go so that we can utilize them. We have just a handful of outstanding change orders. We do have an issue out in front of the high school, the new blacktopping. There is a little bit of puddling that's occurring. So we're going to monitor that over the winter and early spring. But the contractor acknowledges that there is puddling occurring, and we will watch it, and we'll make a decision in the spring because they have committed to come in to do a kind of a big, large patch to get that to drain better into the drain that is out there. We'll be discussing at our next meeting, February 9th, our support services meeting, that is, by that time, there will be some monies that will be remaining that the support service committee will come to the board to make some suggestions as to, what other things that we can do. And again, when you have some monies left in a project, it has to be spent on, like jobs. You can't just go way outside the scope of the capital project. It has to be something that's, related to, what was advertised as what the project was. Tom Ritzenthaler, who from CSR, our architectural firm, he will be in the next board meeting Zoom, and he'll do a presentation kind of giving you an overview of the project in more detail as far as from the architect's point of view. And I thought for 2021 to kind of get everyone back in the positive spirit, my Monday message yesterday was the 3 times challenge. So I challenged the students over the next week to do 3 things. They were first to compliment at least 3 people every day. The second was to say please and thank you at least 3 times a day. And the third, to help out your family at least 3 times without being asked. So to whether that is, putting out the garbage without being asked, or cleaning their rooms, or putting their clothes away. So 3 times a day to get everyone in a positive, cooperative, and happy mode for 2021. And that is all I have for tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for the superintendent? Just one thing I want to point out, CSR has gratefully given at no charge our building condition survey to the district. And that's thank you to both Mr. Bon Jovi and Mr. Miller, who kind of, pushed them in that direction with some of the issues that we have incurred. So they're willing to do our building condition survey at no charge to the district.
Yes.
It's a considerable cost to the district, so that will be done. And I believe also they're going to oversee the installation of the canopy. If we do go out to an outside contractor, they'll manage that as far as approving submittals and so forth. So again, thank you to our superintendent and our director of facilities for facilitating that and getting that to happen. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for the superintendent? Okay, we'll move on under new business. Memorandum of Agreement, Highland Central School District in Ulster County. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves entering into a memorandum of agreement with Ulster County to address COVID-19 testing of students, faculty, and staff upon the terms and conditions, a copy of which are annexed hereto, and further authorizes the superintendent to sign such a memorandum of agreement as recommended by the district's attorney. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Tom, second by Camille. Discussion?
And this is the same MOA that every district in Ulster County is signing. It was vetted by our attorney. And this is so that the schools, we were provided with tests if in the case that we need to do the 20% testing in order to stay in in-person instruction. So it's just that we're doing the tests under the license of the Ulster County Department of Health. So that's basically what this MOA is. And that once we do tests, we have to, not names, but we have to share just the results with the county of the percentage of positive or negative cases.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. FYI, Ulster County School Board Association meeting notice, January 28, 2021. Under old business, we have our second reading of, I think it's 9 policies. We're ready to move forward with the second reading. I'll read the resolution and then we can take it from there. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following Board of Education policies as presented to the board at this meeting. Policy number 3421, Title 9 and sex discrimination. Policy 3411, prohibition of weapons on school grounds. Policy 6121, sexual harassment on district personnel. Policy 7315, student staff acceptable use policy. Policy 7315, revised, student staff acceptable use. Policy 7316, student use of personal technology. Policy 7360, weapons in school and the Gun-Free Schools Act, and policy 7551, sexual harassment of students. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Sue, second by Mike. Discussion?
So again, we had that first reading. These, have all been, reviewed by our attorney. They were reviewed by the policy committee. The policy committee is doing, very nice job. Moving forward, we had to reschedule a meeting, but our meeting again on February 1st. So our work continues.
Some of them seem repetitive, or am I just misunderstanding?
If I may, just a clarification on those, you'll see that for example, the student and staff acceptable use policy, one is the policy and the one with the R is the administrative regulation.
Regs, yeah.
That confused me.
The other thing is some of them may seem redundant, but we are bringing in more of the Erie 1 recommendations. So they recommended, a policy on personal devices. They recommend it. So from Erie 1, we get to read it, make any adjustments, then it goes to the attorney, then it comes back. So some of these have been bounced around a little bit, but some are redundancies, or they appear redundancies, but they just take a little bit of different angle based upon what they're addressing.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I know Tom had given a update on the support service committee meeting today. And we also had the audit committee meeting this afternoon. Lisa, do you want to give an update on that?
Hi. So the audit committee and the support services committee met at 4 p.m. with the district's financial advisors. And what it was to review a proposed capital project and the pre-vote information. Specifically, there were assumptions made. There was a financing timeline. The committee reviewed the existing debt service for the buildings. There was a capital project timeline. What would the net local share of the debt service be? We reviewed bar charts regarding our existing debt service and a history of building aid ratios and the maximum cost allowances by building. We will share this presentation with the entire board, and hopefully we'll have more meetings between the audit committee and the support services committee so we can plan going forward. The reason why we had this is the district has a $900,000 capital reserve, and it was approved by the voters in May 2015. So we're more than halfway through the useful life of this capital reserve. It has a 10-year lifespan. So we should look as to what do we intend to spend the $900,000 on. And they did a what if we use the 900,000, how much would a project be? It equated to a little over $12 million using the assumptions that were provided. So again, much more conversation in the months ahead. And I thank all of the committee members for first sitting through the presentation and asking those awesome questions. Thank you very much for your support and assistance with this. I'm looking forward to direction on going forward and what the committees would like to see next. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I know the two board members that were not present is Camille and Mike. Can you forward them that proposed capital project handout that we saw today from Bernie Donegan's office? Does anyone have any questions in regard to the audit committee support service / support service meeting we had today in regards to that? Okay. I believe we're just about wrapped up. Does anyone have anything for the good and welfare of the district or any correspondence you'd like to share? Okay. Lisa, I don't believe you've gotten any public comments. I know we don't have it at the back end, but just in case someone sent something in.
No, I have not received anything as of this time, as well as in the chat.
Good. I will entertain a motion for adjournment. We do not have to go back into executive session, so we will see everyone on our February 9th meeting. I believe. Can I have a motion to go and to come to adjourn? I'm sorry. Motion by Camille, second by Heather. All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Have a
night.
great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.